Look, first up, the Prime Minister said in question time today that the pandemic is now worse than it was a year ago. That's not right, is it?
Well, I think he's talking about the global pandemic and the raging effect on many of our developing countries. I think what's changed is that we've moved from first world countries to developing countries. Obviously, the outcomes, the threat is much greater in those countries simply because they don't have the facilities that we do.
Exactly. So there's no doubt the pandemic's worse in India now than it was a year ago, but globally we've had a massive success in the UK with the rollout of a vaccine. Europe's through the winter. Things are getting a lot better in the US. In Australia, obviously, we've managed to keep ourselves virtually virus-free, but treatments have improved, case fatality rates have dropped, and there's a number of vaccines being circulated around the world. Surely we're much better off than we were a year ago.
Yeah, look, I think that we are. However, the risk is always there. The pandemic is lurking, and if we're not maintaining strong measures to control what we're doing, whether it's people coming in from overseas, whether it's quarantine measures, then we are very much at risk of falling into a third wave. So, you know, we have to be very cautious about that and be mindful of that while we enjoy the freedoms that we actually do enjoy right now.
Yeah, indeed. But the reason I ask you, obviously, because if the Prime Minister is getting out there telling people that it's worse than it was a year ago, this goes to, you know, frightening people, alarming people unnecessarily. Oughtn't we be reassuring people, especially when people are getting jabbed with a vaccine now?
Well, I think the point is that we definitely want people getting the vaccination. And there is hesitation in my own town. My husband is a GP, so I know that people are a little hesitant about getting the vaccine, and we want them to feel confident that it is the right thing to do. If we're going to move out of this pandemic, that really is the road forward. And, you know, the Prime Minister, I'm sure, is trying to encourage people to go ahead and do that.
It interests me really that I increasingly sense that the reason our vaccination rates aren't super high is because people aren't rushing to get vaccines. So there's hardly any COVID in the country, so people figure, why bother? It's less of a supply issue now and more of an intent issue, right?
Oh, look, I agree with you. I think that we have the luxury of being able to sit in our armchairs watching this program and, you know, consider that COVID really isn't a super risk to us because it's not raging in our population. But the fact is that it could be. And if we want to open up our international borders, if we really want to get life back to a state where we're not living with the anxiety that the pandemic could step in and completely mess up our lifestyle, then, you know, we need to step up.
But it's a bit of a chicken and egg situation, because if we continue what's a de facto elimination strategy, then people figure, why do we bother with the vaccine? Maybe what we need to do is start opening up a little bit, understanding there's the risk of cross-infection and we have small outbreaks, and that might encourage people to get out there and get vaccinated. At the moment, there's no risk of infection.
Well, you know, fear is an incredible motivator, and it's not a fear that I want my communities to live through. You can remember back 15 months ago when the pandemic was first hitting our shores, and the anxiety that was evident in my communities was really quite terrifying. And I don't want people living like that. We want people to be able to live their lives freely, and the way to do that is to be vaccinated.
Indeed. Now,
and it's really not just... Sorry.
No, you finish.
It's really not just about us. Like my mother said to me and to my husband, you know, I don't think I'll get vaccinated. And we said, well, it's not really about you. It's about your neighbours. It's about the people you play golf with. It's about, you know, the people in your church community. It's about all of us doing what we need to do in order for our communities to be able to move forward.
Oh, absolutely. And you know, anyone, your mother needs to get vaccinated. I'm all in favour of that. Pushing my parents, yeah, they got to get vaccinated. I'm getting to the age too where I probably need to line up pretty quickly too. Just very briefly, when you do something like a women's budget, a big women's package in the budget, obviously there because of political pressure, you never get any kudos for it, do you? Aren't you giving in to your critics, and you're never going to do enough to get the praise that you need from those people who want to criticise you on those gender issues?
Look, I think this is, it's tortuous, really. The reality is that the government has responded not just to media or lobbying pressure, but rather to reports, obviously domestic violence reports. I'm on the Committee for Social Policy Legal Affairs. I have a fair understanding of what is going on in Australia, whether it's coercive control, whether it's women fleeing domestic violence. And I'm also the founder of an organisation that worked with, they continue to work with young women who are pregnant or parenting to re-engage in education and employment. I know the disparity between the freedoms that their partners or ex-partners have and the lack of follow-up, the fear they live with, the lack of independence. I mean, ultimately, this budget is, in terms of the women, is around safety, it's around health, it's around prosperity, and it's around choice. And they're all good things. Doesn't matter what gender you are, they are good things, but they're very important for women.
I do not disagree with any of them, but it is interesting politics. Thanks very much for joining us, Anne. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.